Greetings. This is Positivologist Lynette Turner, and welcome to the Positivologist is in the house. I hope you're sitting in a comfortable chair, lounging on a couch with a cold drink or a warm drink, just relaxing, taking a deep breath, and getting ready for a very invigorating conversation. If you want to connect with me after the show, you can do so at www.positivebliss.com. This is a show that focuses on living your life from a positive perspective. And who out there doesn't want to do that? That's not to say that it's easy to do all the time. It can be challenging, but if we fall off the positivity wagon, we can get back up and keep rolling forward. And each and every day, we have the opportunity and the choice to make that decision. And I am blessed with having this amazing platform of this show to talk to incredible people who have figured out how to do that, how to be positive. And tonight we're in for a magnificent treat. We have Jan Hoth here, and I think of her as sort of the empress of happiness. You'll see she's very joyful and jolly and happy and smiling, and you can't help but be happy when you're around her, even if it's through the computer screen. So I'm very excited. She's developed something called the Happiness Prism, and she's just got all sorts of tips that are going to have you leaving the show energized and really happy to be alive no matter what your challenges are. So, Jan, welcome to the show.
Hi. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here, and you definitely are. We're talking about one of my favorite topics. Anyone who knows me is always like, you're so happy, you're so positive. You know, sometimes it's like, why are you so happy? Why are you so positive? And I'm like, do I have to have a reason? You know, it's just because we make the decision every day, right? So I'm thrilled to have you here with your expertise and years of practicing, you know, walking your truth to talk to us about that. And before we launch into our, we have a great list of questions, I want to turn it over to you for a few minutes, Jan, so you can just tell the viewers all about yourself. Don't be shy. Don't leave anything out. You wear many hats and have many skills. So tell the viewers a bit about yourself, if there's materials about happiness that they can purchase, how they can connect with you on your website, and we'll do that again later. But for a few minutes, I'd like to just give you the platform to tell us all about Jan.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lynette, and thank you again. Yes, so hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Jan Hoth, and I am a thought leader on happiness and authenticity because I've had plenty of things in my life that could have taken me down a path that was not happy. And one of my proudest roles in life, though, is as a mother of 2 young children and a wife to an awesome Australian man. And my path to happiness has been a long one because there were times in my life where I wasn't happy, where I faked happy, where I had like a big fake smile. And so that's where it means so much to me to be able to come on a show like yours and show up with my true happiness because it's taken something to be here.
Great. So we're going to learn all about that. So what's your, tell us your website. How can people find you afterwards if they'd like to connect with you?
Awesome, yes. So my website is nurturetheleader.com. And that actually was really the foundation of the work that I do that has really launched into bigger things along my journey as I have developed a concept called the Happiness Prism, which I use in my everyday life, and that's the concept I coach my clients around in really connecting with what I call their happy truth. Because what I believe is that when we are truly aligned with our path, our true path, not what someone else thinks, when we're really aligned with that, that's what I call our happy truth, because we can't be anything but happy.
Right. And it takes courage to do that, though, right? Because, you know, other people have expectations of us, or there's things we think we should be doing, even if our heart tells us to do something else. And so we have to have some bravery about us, right, in order to walk down that path?
Absolutely, yes. And that's where so much of my story has led to me being able to really have something to stand on when I do provide coaching and guidance to leaders. And people of different areas of lives, even though I may not be, you know, the CEO of a major corporation, I can still walk them through a challenging situation because I have been in my own extremely challenging experiences that have supported me in learning and being able to have the wisdom to be able to stand in the uncomfortableness that each of us has when we really do face what are so-called fears, when it really feels like everything is awful and things are falling apart and there's imminent danger. Like, we have to go there. We have to really go there to actually continue walking through the tunnel, to actually see that there is a light at the end.
Right. So we can't pretend it's not there, the hardships or the challenges. We have to acknowledge them in order to walk through them and get to the other side.
Absolutely. And that's where I had 3 major turning points in my life that have contributed to this concept called the happiness prism, which I'm excited to share with your viewers because it's a simple tool and a simple 4-step process that they can actually take away and, you know, use for themselves from this day forward.
Oh, good.
To really assist them.
Ooh, that's something to look forward to, so we'll definitely get to that in the hour.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you're really big on happy intentions, right? So what are happy intentions, and what might be your intention for the time we're together for this hour to talk to each other and to talk to the viewers?
Yes. I'm absolutely all about intention, and that's really what the Happiness Prism supports in, is really creating like a framework through which to look at our daily lives. And specifically, my intention for tonight is that each and every person here comes away with a nugget, a pearl of wisdom, a spark of inspiration that would really assist them in stepping into that next space. Or maybe for some people it's leaping, or maybe for some people it's crawling. But for people to have the experience of moving forward in their lives with a little boost of, I can do this. And to come away with that notion of, wow, that is actually what lights me up, and I am going to take action on that. So that's my intention.
And I think that's a very important word, intention, because we have to know what it is we want to achieve or feel or be in order to get there. So having that clarity of intention is, I think, would be critically important.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you think, Jan, some people are born happy? I mean, I've read different materials that have said that, you know, some people are just born happy. That we can learn to be happy, but do you have a opinion or a sense about whether some people are just born that way more so than other people?
Well, I've probably read some of the same books you have. I personally believe that, yes, some people do have a bit of an innate tendency towards happiness. In fact, I'm sure you're familiar with Shawn Achor, who has done a lot of research and says that there's a certain percentage of our genealogy.
Right.
I personally believe that, you know, that just may be where you start from. It's not necessarily where you end up.
Right.
And it's really being with a loving tenderness around what you got, the cards you got, you know, dealt.
Right.
And I think that's part of the beauty and the unfolding and also the celebration of happiness that can come or does come when you realize whatever your situation is, because it's all personal.
Right.
It's all personal. Just because that person was genetically 50% chance of happiness versus someone's genetically 75%.
Right.
It doesn't matter. What matters is I'm in my own journey. Each person is in their own journey. So for them to create happiness, and it is up to them, and the way it shows up is up to them. So people like you and I, we bounce off the walls, and we're bubbly, and we're bubbling over, and we're like leaning in, and, you know, so excited to be with people, and we're huggers, and we're, you know, like very affectionate. That I'm just
that's true. Yeah.
But that's how my happiness shows up. There's people that are very peacefully, quietly happy. You know,
and
like
that's valid.
And that's so it's a race against yourself, and it's not even a race. It's like wherever you go, there you are, you know. And yet I know I'm committed to living, leading, and owning and experiencing the most blissful life possible. And from there, that's where my life intention is.
Right.
So it's like, it doesn't matter whether I was born happier per se, because I mean, I was a very happy kid. I have 2 beautiful, happy children too. And yet, you know, I've dealt with a family tragedy and a near-death experience and depression and financial challenges. So I've been dealt with some big challenges that I could have let, you know.
I totally hear you. You know, and as you were speaking, I was thinking, even if someone was sort of born happier, we all have challenges in our life, no matter how happy we were born. I mean, I'm one of those people that I've just always been a happy person. Even if, and I'm always, you know, the glass is half full, not half empty. I'm the one, you go to a movie and you come out and everyone's like, the acting was terrible, and I didn't like the cinematography, and I'm like, oh yeah, but those costumes are really amazing. They're like, you're always finding the good. And I do. And, you know, sometimes I joke and say that partially that's selfish because I just feel better. I mean, I feel more energized when I'm happier, you know, and whatever challenge I'm going through, I just always know it could be worse. I don't care what happens to me. I know it could be worse, and I own whatever it is. So I try not to be the victim or play the victim. Everyone has a choice on how they deal with these things, but all that helps me to be a happier and a more positive person.
So I would love to add to that, actually.
Please.
Because what I would say is, and I think this is a nugget that I would love for your viewers to get, is that I think it does get easier with practice.
Yeah.
That and I actually have plenty of scientific friends that talk about neural pathways that are created as we continue to choose the happier choice, even if sometimes it's like black and gray, you know, just whatever slightly happier feels better. We're creating more neural pathways that will support that. So I can confidently say in my own experience in life, it gets easier.
Yeah. Excellent. So you talked about how you had like 3 monumental experiences that were really hard. If you're comfortable talking about some of that and what happened either in your heart or in your mind, that even though you're going through this really difficult time, that you were able to make this shift to still be a person who could embrace and appreciate happiness, even if you were dealing with some real hardships. Maybe, because I'm sure many people out there can relate on some level to that, and maybe they didn't know what to do or how to feel to get to that place, and you might be able to share some tips or experience that can help them know that they can make it through too.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, well, we can kind of begin the journey of the happiness prism, which begins when I was in my teens and I was diagnosed with depression. And I would go to school and I'd put on my fake smile and I would go home and cry. And just a myriad of circumstances showed up that everything that I was trying to do in my life wasn't working out. And I can honestly say I had moments where I thought, really, what's this all for anyway?
Yeah.
And yet I had a German teacher that saw something in me. And in fact, it was a substitute teacher. So it was just like a person I had a very minimal contact with, and yet she saw something and she said, hey, Jan, I think you should try out for this scholarship to go to Germany for a year. And it was like, I just sat there and thought, wow, well, that's interesting, different, and it sounds a lot more exciting than moping about. So why don't I fill out the application? What the heck? There's nothing to lose. Well, I ended up getting the scholarship. I won a scholarship to go to Germany for the year, and yet my parents sat me down. They're like, we're really proud of you, honey. The moment they find out when they do background checks that you're on antidepressants, they're not going to accept you into the program. You know, really, like, you don't send a teenager, and this is before internet. I mean, this is like snail mail, 1 phone call a month kind of business. You don't send your teenager on antidepressants overseas. So I really sat down and I just took a deep breath and said, well, gee, go off to Germany and have some fun and play, or sit at home and mope about in this space that I'm clearly not happy in. And it was like, I'm going to play. And boom, from then on, like I can honestly say, from then on, I have never experienced, well, I've experienced depression or depressive moments, and yet I've never been diagnosed with depression or required antidepressants. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I first connected with one of the first aspects of the happiness prism, which lives right here over your heart.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can kind of feel into it. And so overcoming depression helped me connect with the concept of play and how we absolutely require play in our lives. I don't care how old you are or young, play is something absolutely that I include in every day.
Yes.
And by the way, play can look like reading a book. It doesn't necessarily mean running around like silly children.
You don't have to be on a trampoline every day, but although that could be one way to.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Dancing around in my underwear with my children is certainly joyful. So then fast forward, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm married to an amazing Australian man who I love dearly, and his parents were over visiting us from Australia, and we were having a grand old time. We were visiting my parents in the Florida Keys, and it's a busy one-lane or two-lane highway, and they thought that they would go for a bike ride. And about an hour later, we got a phone call that my Australian mother had looked the wrong way.
Oh my.
And still obviously touches me.
Yes. Oh, of course.
And she was tragically killed on the spot. And that was definitely a moment where I asked again, what's this all for?
I'm so sorry. That's hard.
Yeah. Well, and what was beyond that was this was a particular being. Like, she was magical. There was something about her that she had a way with people beyond what all of us understood. She was a kindergarten teacher, and yet she was the type of person that sat down and said, well, how do you really feel? What do you really care about? What are your really big dreams? And so here I was so grateful to be blessed with in-laws. You know, there's all those in-laws jokes. Blessed with amazing in-laws, and yet this woman who touched so many lives, even in the short time that she was in visiting us, it moved me to have lost her, and yet I woke up to a new realm at that point. And what that was the idea of progress. And the idea of realizing that I appreciated those gifts in her because I had some of them myself. And that, you know what, life is short and it can go very fast, as we just experienced. I've got to do something with my life. And that's when I really connect with the power and importance of progress on a daily basis. And understanding that progress, like I said before, it might be a giant leap, it might be a little step, or it might be a crawl. So whatever is going to move you forward in your life on a daily basis. And that's when I met the next aspect of the happiness prism. And then fast forward, I have 2 beautiful babies, and I have my 6-week-old son. My daughter's 2 years old at the time, and my 6-week-old son has something kind of strange looking on his arm. Like, there's no bruising, and yet it's kind of a bigger looking arm. Something's just not right. And we go to the doctor, and we're sent to the hospital, and and the next thing you know, 8 hours later, I find myself in the oncology ward of a children's hospital with my then 6-week-old son. And they suspect it's cancer, and it's life-threatening. And I'm going, this doesn't happen to me. You know, who are you talking about? He's perfectly fine. He's thriving and happy and he's moving his arm. What's wrong? And I spent 2 weeks there in the hospital with him. They did every test in the book. We don't know, we don't know, we don't know. He's getting worse, we don't know. And yet by the end of 2 weeks, we were sent home with a pat on the back and said, we think he's going to be okay. There's an undiagnosable condition here, and yet we believe he's a medical miracle. And it was in those 2 weeks there that I sat down and I got quiet, and that was really the first time that I looked up and said, help. And really truly connected with and believed in the fact that there are forces way beyond me, way beyond all of us at work in this life. And that's when I connected with the power of peace. Because it was in the peaceful, quiet moments that I was loving on him and I was nursing him all, between all of the cords and everything else. And to really be with the experience of having to get quiet, having to look up, having to just be in the moment. I truly believed I helped heal my son. And I believe that I used those peaceful times to connect with the spiritual realm beyond what all is physical.
Right.
And within the realm of peace, realized that for me sometimes peace in the hospital room was getting to take a shower or going for a walk or being quiet and just understanding, like when I talk about peace and the coaching that I do, peace doesn't necessarily look like sitting down and praying. It may be for some. Right. Peace may look like going for a walk. It may actually look like going for a swim or a bike ride, something more active. It may be going to a church. It may be meditating. But understanding that we as human beings require peace at any aspect of our lives in every day.
Right,
requiring to connect with peace. So those are just some of the challenges.
Those are pretty big. And I know one of the things you talk about is helping your clients deal with monumental circumstances. So given what you've gone through, you have this personal experience to be able to help them. Yeah? And so when someone comes to you with a monumental circumstance, as you've just described, what's your process of helping them get from where they are back to that space and place of happiness?
Yeah. Well, an awesome question, because it is a process and then it's a journey. And again, as unique as they are, it's unique to what's going to serve them. So the process really begins with where they're at. And
which
really
is going to be different for everybody because everyone's going to be in a different place.
Correct. Yes, because I have clients that are really in the middle of the stuff right now. And what support they're requiring looks very different than someone who's already walked through the stuff, like the tunnel we were talking about. So the process in simple form, though, no matter what, begins with starting their own intention and being with what that looks like around the happiness prism, that no matter how messy, ugly, challenging, overwhelming their situation is, that they still have a choice in that moment. Yeah. And supporting them and finding, okay, maybe they can't get to happiness, and yet, how about we get to peace? I like to keep things really simple when it comes to this process, because I know in my life it's gotten so, it could get overcomplicated. I feel like there's so much in this world that's overcomplicated.
We're overstimulated, overcomplicated, very busy. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Peace.
Yeah. And we, I mean, even in teaching my young children who are 3 and 5, we talk about there's not happy, there's peace, and then there's happy. And understanding that, like, we guys oscillate between all of that, and that's part of life. You know, we really can't have the sun without the moon. So how do we love on all of that? And yet some of my clients, like I said, they're starting out like, let's just find a certain level of peace.
Right.
And that might just be a tranquil version of happiness at that moment.
I think maybe, I mean, do you have clients where you have to help them give themselves permission to go to that place of peace? You know, if they're dealing with all sorts of turmoil, or if they don't feel good about themselves, or they, you know, they just might not. Sometimes people, I think they don't think they're worthy. Mm-hmm. And we are worthy of being happy and being peaceful and being positive.
Yeah. Yes. There's certainly different levels of deserving and worthiness and all sorts of descriptions of that type of energy or nature. And I certainly go into that because I think that's, personally, I know I found in my own journey, and just about everybody has their own version of that.
Right.
That has held them back. And it shows up, I find, as fear. Yeah. And yet when we dig deeper and go, well, you know, yeah, are you worthy of this? And let's really talk about what you care about and what your happiness is. And again, going to that space of, like, what's your happy truth, as I like to call it. Like, not what's the happy truth that you thought you wanted, or that your friend or your parents or your spouse or whoever. Like, a lot of times I get on a call with someone, or I get on a, you know, experience with someone, and they've been following a path that's not theirs anyway.
Right. A lot of people are, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of people are. So, what's your description of happiness? How would you describe it?
Well, I will honestly say that it's an evolution for me, that it's a constantly evolving term, meaning, and yet today for me it's the ultimate experience of connection, of love, of wholeness, of joy, of gratitude, of humble, of respect, and the infinite experience of all of that.
Who wouldn't want that? That sounds awesome.
Yes.
You know, you mentioned before finding your happy truth. Mm-hmm. So is that what you mean when you're talking about, as you mentioned, not what someone else thinks is happiness, but what you think is happiness? And I wonder if you ever connect with people or know people, I think I do, who really don't know what their happy truth is. So they need some help to get there. You know what I mean?
Yes, and that definitely gets to some of the upfront processes that we definitely go through when starting to sort out, because oftentimes there is so much in the way of really understanding, knowing, feeling what is someone's true path and their ultimate happiness. So sometimes it's a very muddy windshield when we start.
That's a good visual.
Yes.
So what would you say, I know you say that leadership and happiness have something to do with each other. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yes, I truly believe, and I love Shawn Achor for all of the statistics that he's putting to all this. And yet what I believe from the spiritual realm they've known for centuries is that happiness is the most effective process in any organization, in anything, in any form of life, that the striving to happiness, the striving for happiness, and a commitment to happiness such that you're willing to go where you need to go to get back to happy is
As
the
scary
most.
as that might be sometimes.
Yes,
I
and
think
that's
we just get sort of stuck in a routine, or again, fear or afraid. At least I know this situation, I know this job environment, and what's it going to be if But we are so much happier when we take that leap, and part of it is that leap of faith, right? If people have something to connect to in that whatever divine source, God, whatever
Mhm.
whatever else that might be, to just again not be too afraid and just take that step, take that leap.
Yes, and that's where I can humbly share that the work that I do really supports people in that, like walking through that challenging space. I mean, so I can share with you, I work with a lot of leaders on an ongoing basis. Like I have clients that I've worked with for years because they're realizing that there's always going to be another challenge. The fear is going to continue to come up.
Right.
And like I was, suggesting earlier that it does get easier. It still comes up. It still comes up for me, and I have to stop and go.
But it's gonna probably keep rearing its head, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a pretty awesome experience walking people through that process, and then really finding that the leaders that are committed to the happy path are far more effective, have a greater, broader influence with surprising results, and essentially they're getting more and more feedback. Like it's less work. Like they're not having to go out and do the work. The same, like pushing concepts and everything else, it's like they're leading by demonstration.
But Jen, how do we get more? I have to say, there's more people than there are fewer people who are, particularly in work situations, that they're just not happy there. We get up and we go where we need to go, and we do what we need to do. And what you say is so true. When you read about some work environments, I think of places like Google, at least what you hear about places like Google or Apple Shoes or whatever those places are, where it's really just, open, and every people are interacting with each other, and you can take as much vacation time as you like. Netflix, apparently, you can take as much vacation as you want as long as you get your job done, and people are happy. You're gonna be more productive. You're gonna get more done, and it just seems like this needs to filter out into corporate America to help everybody be happier. So I mean, you're a living example of it. So hopefully, all of a sudden, I got an image of popcorn, and you do it here, and then you do it there, and then more people do it, and then then we have this explosion of happiness in corporate America, and I think that's really a wonderful thing for us to have. Do you want to talk us through the happiness prism so we know the steps of what are incorporated in that? And did it come to you? How did it come to you? How did you know how to make this happiness prism come to life or develop the different pieces of it?
Yeah. So, what really, the journey of the happy prism was just like so many ways ideas are birthed. It was a birthing process that as I was kind of going through it, and really connecting deeply with how much it's my journey infused into it, and to share as wisdom to others, I really got to the place of understanding that most importantly, I require to ask myself, and this is what I invite the viewers to do, is ask themselves these 4 questions on a daily basis. And I'm a very visual person, by the way, as really in addition to who I am, as I'm a visionary and intuitive, and I see a lot. So I find for myself it's really helpful to see and feel things and experience them. So the happiness prism kind of comes across in several different spaces. So I'll show you. It's a triangle. So you can make a triangle with your hand, and then it lives over your heart. So even like as viewers, as oddly as this might seem right now, to take a deep breath with your triangle over your heart. And take another deep breath. Can you feel that?
Yes. Feel the energy in my heart chakra.
Yes. And that's where the happiness prism lives. And, really understanding that, the whole idea of living from the heart and living from your truth, like that's where the prism lives. Now, how to practically apply this is by drawing a triangle on a piece of paper. And
I can do it. I'm like not very good, but I can't even draw a straight line, but I can draw a triangle.
Yeah, so drawing a triangle on a piece of paper, and then in the center of the triangle, you write down one word, and it's the answer to this question. Who do I require to be to experience happiness?
Who do I require to be to experience? And is this one of those things where there's no wrong answer?
There's no wrong answer, except it's a way of being. So, like sometimes I'll have really wonky words come through, like tree. And I think, well, that's not a way of being, and yet I think about a tree and it could be strong or still. And so it's a way of being that comes through. So, for example, I created a happiness prism before I came on your show, and the word that came through was vibrant. So who I require to be to experience happiness for this conversation is to be vibrant. And that creates, like a context for me to view my life and my experience in that moment.
So it's an exercise that you can do it more than once. You don't just do it one time and you think of this word and that's it for the rest of your life. You can...
Oh, no. And this is part of my daily process. This is part of my daily process that I walk my clients through and really assisting them because, if they're in a lot of stuff, the word might be the word peace or tranquil or powerful. And when they're owning that space of power or tranquil or even still, it may really assist them in being all that they require to be in their day.
Right.
So the next 3 questions are to look at the triangle, and in the center it's the way of being, so that's the context, if you will, a framework through which, a lens through which you look at your day. And then the next question you ask yourself is, what's one thing I require to do to experience peace? So it's very simple action steps, and this turns into be the most powerful to-do list you will ever create, because once you do this, it gets you going to do all those other to-dos you have to do.
Right.
But this way you've touched all the sides of the prism, and that's what causes you to be the most lit up.
Right.
And so hence also that's where the prism concept comes from, is the fact that I believe all of us are beings of light. So when we're shining, and if you think about the idea of the triangle and it's, living over your heart and you're shining, well, if you've honored what you need to do to play, what you need to do to connect with peace, what you need to do to connect with progress, then you get to shine in what happens when you shine a light through a prism. You get a rainbow. And you get to maximize the rainbow. And maximize the effect that you have on the world. And that's where I really truly believe and stand in this work with leaders, because they care so much more about the effect beyond themselves.
Right.
But it starts with us.
Yeah.
I couldn't do the work I do if I didn't do the work on myself. Right? I wouldn't have an authentic smile.
Yeah. Right. And you talk a lot about the authenticity of the work, or us honoring our own authenticity. Yeah, it just can't. Seems like that can't be repeated enough about honoring our own, because we do live in such a society where we want to please everybody, our bosses, our spouses, our kids, our neighbors, and then so often we're like last in line. Where it's not, I don't think it's selfish for us to be first in line to take care and nurture ourselves so that we can be there for other people.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's absolutely where my work starts and ends and continues to evolve, because for me that nurturing is that continual question of what's going to have me be happy today, what will support me in connecting with these energies, so that I really am filled up, bubbling over, and able to give everything that I care to give to my family, to my clients, to my husband, to my community, to my friends.
It totally makes sense too that the more you do it, like you said, the easier it gets. And then if you're in the practice and the habit of doing this, if you do have a hard time, it's going to be easier to pick yourself up and keep going, because your mind, your heart, your brain, your soul, your spirit is all going to be in alignment. Remembering what that feels like. Remember, it's okay to go there. Acknowledge the challenge, but then it's okay to go into that happiness space.
Absolutely, yes, because stuff still happens to me. We lost our keys. We were an hour away on Sunday. We lost our keys at my husband's soccer game in somewhere in one of the 3 soccer fields.
Oh, no.
So my husband and I both had every opportunity, and it was my daughter who was carrying the keys. So we had every opportunity to lose it on her, to lose it on each other, me blaming whatever myself that I gave my daughter the keys, like every opportunity to absolutely lose it. And yet it was like, oh, this stinks. And then it was like, 5 hours later we got home. But, it did work out. And the greatest piece is, so we're sitting at the dinner table asking the kids, we're telling them, sorry, the day didn't turn out the way we wanted it to and everything. And they were like, the best day ever. We got to maneuver the levers on the tow truck. And it just, once again, beautifully reminded that there's actually, and this is something else that I teach, in my intentions, I talk about this or something even better for the highest good. And I didn't make that up. I've gotten that from other mentors, and I know there's a lot of people that do that. But I will tell you, I add that to every single intention, every single prayer, everything, because I know that I have a great idea, or I believe I have a great idea, but I also believe that the divine has a much better plan.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I completely agree with that. With the, it's not a place to get to, because I'm the same way too. There might be something that I even want, and I think I can be very specific about it, but I always do the same thing, whatever's for my highest good, because, it may be more than I'm imagining. If I can be open to that, and open to the universe, and open to the divine guiding me, and it also does take you to the place of peace. It takes the angst and the anxiety away. If I say, I know it's going to be for my highest good, even if it doesn't seem like that at the moment. Whatever appears, whatever comes to me, whatever the situation is, I just know it's for a reason, and I know it's for my highest good. And it's just like completely calms you down.
Absolutely.
This is a great place to be.
Yes. Well, and just to piggyback on that, I definitely find that I feel like it takes the pressure off of having to perform a certain way.
Yeah.
That, hey, this is my intention here, and yet, hey, you got something better? I'm totally open to it. Let's do this.
It's all perfect. It really is all perfect.
Yes.
Embrace that. So Jen, talk a minute about, you talked about the science of happiness versus the spiritual perspective on happiness. Talk to us about that.
Yes. Well, what I am so happy to say is I feel like science is starting to catch up in proving what so many of us, you and I'm certain, believe anyway. And that what has been spoken about, written about for thousands of years by spiritual leaders, that truly believing that when we start from and with the intention of happiness, it's it's really the answer to all of it. Like, I know that when I seek happiness and I support my clients and my family and those around me in the realm of happiness, that it's like you don't even care about the science anymore. We just know that it feels good and things work.
Yeah, yeah. Don't you find too that, I mean, I can only imagine, because you are such a happy, bubbly person, your kids and your husband, I can imagine all of you sort of bouncing off the wall with happiness. But don't you find that it's kind of contagious? I mean, I find that. I mean, I am the way I am because I am the way I am. I'm not trying to act that way. It's not like I get up every day and go, okay, now I'm going to act happy. I just am. And I do find that sort of resonates with people, and people can gravitate to you either because they like being around someone else that's happy, or sometimes people will gravitate because, well, and you know, because you were a guest speaker at the Happiness Club. We've had people come to the Happiness Club who weren't happy at all, but they want to figure out, you know, we've had people go, you know, my wife is happy all the time. I do not get it. I want to understand what's going on, so I'm coming to the Happiness Club to be around all you happy people so I can figure out how to get there. So I think it does, because we're all energy, right? It's all energy. So people pick up on that energy, and when you have happy, positive energy, people can feel that and see it and, you know, resonate with it. It's like when you walk into a room, there's some people you gravitate to, because I'm sure I would gravitate towards you as soon as I walk into the room because of your energy. And other people, they're just sort of like, you know, kind of melting down, and that they don't have the same kind of energy, and so people might not be as care to be quite as engaged with those people because it is all energetic.
Yes. Well, and I would thoroughly agree that there is certainly an energy around that. And I've had professional colleagues that have read my website, for example, and said, I got turned off with the word happy so many times. And it's like, well, that's great. We're not in alignment to work together.
And that's okay.
You know, yeah. So I absolutely agree that happiness is contagious, and yet there's some people that are maybe just not available to be there.
Yeah.
And yet the example you used, where there's some people that not necessarily that happy are showing up at happiness clubs, there's a part of them that cares enough to show up. And certainly my hat goes off to them because they're showing up.
Right.
And that's maybe in the space that I was referring to before, that maybe they're in the crawling phase. That it's like there's a spark of something that is getting them something that they know there's a knowing that there's better.
Right. So they're just trying to figure out how to get there.
Yeah. So, and it's just really honoring where each one of us is at.
Right. And it's okay because we're all on a different path.
Yeah.
It's pretty boring, I guess, if we're all on the same path, or everyone's going to do a different path. So you said something else when we were getting ready for the show, which really intrigued me, and it was how you connect to using your intuition and being connected with your intuition, which I'm the same way. So I'd love to hear you talk about that in your life, how that helps or impacts with your happiness journey. I'm all for following that intuition. We have it for a reason.
Yeah.
How does it show up in your life?
Well, it was one of those things I just kind of assumed everyone saw things the way I did. And saw the pure potentiality in each person. And just like, I think that's part of why I do have a level of innate bubbly happiness to me. Because I just think people are fantastic, whoever they are. And yet it was only further down my path that I started to realize not everybody sees things this way. I remember there was someone I dated early on in my life that said, "You see rainbows." And I was like, well, yeah. Doesn't everybody?
Don't you?
Yeah. And it was like, no, the world is a dark place. You know, and that's probably one of the first profound moments in my life that I realized people didn't see things the way I saw them. And it's only as I've gone further down this rabbit hole, if you will, this divine rabbit hole, and yet further down my path, to realize that when I sit and have a conversation with someone, I'm seeing their big vision. I'm seeing their big potential and infinite potential. And within that, I'm realizing that I'm available to them as a mirror. And so I start asking the questions, and I reflect words or things that come through me, and they're blown away because they're like, did you open up my head and look in? And it's like, no, that's just what I see. Like, and sometimes I see words, sometimes I see images, and sometimes I see, even them. I can see their soul, and I realized not that long ago that that's part of my gift, and that's part of how I really can serve people, because I'm able to help them really feel in and see what their happy truth is, and let them know that they aren't crazy. Because I've found so many times on my path, and so many times on my clients' paths, and speaking to them, they think, am I crazy? Am I crazy to have a desire to take action in this area of my life that everyone else thinks I'm nuts? And I'm like, no, because I can see that rings absolutely true to you. And that's where the intuitive piece supports people. Right. And then where I can support my clients in really connecting themselves is through the happiness prism. Because the answers that come through on that little 4-question process is an opportunity to really connect with what rings true for me today. And it might be really powerful. Like today, I did not have it on my agenda to go get a haircut. But I sat down and I did the prism, and it was like, what would I like to do for play today? And it said, go get a haircut. So what do you think?
Very nice.
In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if my stylist was watching, because I was telling her about getting ready to come to this interview, and yet I didn't have that on my agenda. And I just sat down and what's my play today? And I'll tell you what, I got an awesome scalp massage, shoulder, like, good hairstylist. But that's what I'm inviting people into when I teach them the happiness prism, because I'm committed that those that I'm here to serve, and I know this about them, they have on a soul level a craving to understand their own intuition. And so that's part of the work that I do, is I help people hone in on.
And to know they can do that, because some people probably think, I know I work with people who think that, oh, you're special, so you can do that. You can connect with your intuition. I'm like, no. Each and every person can do that. Everybody can do that. It's important for them to realize that.
Yes.
They have that capability.
Absolutely. Yes. And I believe everyone has intuitive abilities. I mean, it's how are we honing in on them, and the more we honor those, what seemingly odd suggestions are, like, I'm just going to call up a random stylist today and say, can I come in 15 minutes? I mean, I'll tell you what, that was divine design.
But you know what I love about what you said too is the whole idea of spontaneity, because I think so often everything's so planned and, down to the nth minute, to just be spontaneous like that and say, I'm going to go take a walk in the woods. I'm going to go get a haircut. I'm going to, I'm going to pull out my hula hoop and just, because I actually do that every so often.
I love it.
I love hula hoops, and it's really good exercise, by the way. People think it's just for kids, but the kid in me loves a hula hoop.
I love it.
But to just let yourself be spontaneous like that. I mean, and two, it just reduces stress. Even the other things you're gonna have to come back and deal with.
Yes.
Taking that sort of time out for that playfulness is such a healthy thing to do.
Well, and I feel called to share that, yes. And there was a perimeter that I knew I had to work with. I had this window of time that I was available for this thing before I needed to pick up my son at preschool. So it wasn't like I was blowing off other responsibilities.
Right.
It was within a loving structure. And yet, absolutely, that's what I'm talking about. The more that we give way to that spontaneous, intuitive notion to do something that was not planned.
Right.
the more it actually gives way, and I'm sure you can attest to this, it gives way to more intuition. It's like when you're listening, you're going to get more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jan, our time's almost over, but what I'd like you to do, in the couple minutes we have left, I'd like you to briefly describe what's your ideal client? Who's the best person to come and work with you? And then tell us again how we can reach you, how people can reach out and connect with you personally one-on-one.
Okay, awesome, and thank you. And yes, I'm so sad the time's gone this fast. So yes, my ideal client is either amidst a monumental circumstance or has recently gone through one. And it could be debt, it could be divorce, a family tragedy. I've had clients who have been through so much, and yet they know there's something way bigger for them to do in this planet. And they have a calling. And whether or not they identify with the word leader, there's something in them knowing that there's a cause for them to lead. And they're seeking someone to really support them in powerfully processing the pain, because they're ultimately committed to leading and living extraordinary lives.
And you help them do that.
What's that?
And you help them do that, which is awesome.
Yes. So, yes, I may be found at nurturetheleader.com, or my direct email is jan@nurturetheleader.com. And I work with people on a 6-month journey, a year-long journey, or a VIP Skype experience. And I'm also in the process of putting together a luxury sailing retreat for a select few women who are really looking to take their happy truth on a happy voyage.
That sounds wonderful.
Yes.
Everybody out there have to tune in, check out Jan's website and all the exciting things that she has to offer. I'm so happy and delighted that you agreed to come on the show. I've loved having this conversation, and I'm sure the viewers have loved hearing about your happiness prism. And we could just sit there and stare at your wonderful smile, and that would be, awesome just in itself, because your energy just exudes right through the computer screen. So thank you so much for your time and energy, and good luck with all of your endeavors. And I look forward to staying in touch with you. It's been just delightful having you. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. And I too look forward to staying in touch. And really, all the best to you. And thank you to all the viewers for listening in. I really hope you got everything that you were looking for out of this experience.
People are going to be bouncing with happiness after the show is over. So I want to thank everybody out there again so much for joining me. Remember, it's all about bliss, BLISS, believe life is something special, because it is, and so are you. I encourage you to take a walk through the landscape of positivity and happiness. We're sure you're going to love the view if you do so. And until the next time, I'll see you right here again on The Positivologist is in the House. Many blessings and namaste.